This is the 8-Bit Beast, and this is my post-commentary of my 59-42 Banjo-Kazooie Any run. So there's a lot going on with this run and a lot to explain, so I'll get started with what I'm doing right now, which is called DDA. So basically what I'm going to do here is do a glitch which lets me start the run in Rusty Bucket Bay. So if you're familiar with Banjo-Kazooie, you're used to starting in Spiral Mountain, but we're in Rusty Bucket Bay instead. And this glitch was... It was a big community effort, but it was Marcus Man 64DS who really put all the pieces together and made DDA possible. And the interesting thing about it is, this glitch only works on the Xbox version, not the N64 version. So it turns out this glitch saves a lot of time, and it makes the Xbox version faster for Banjo-Kazooie Any %. If you are more interested in N64, the leaderboard is split between Xbox and N64. N64 can get about a 106, the world record currently is a 107. Anyway, so what I'm doing right now is waiting for the demo to start. Now I could press start right now and go to a demo, but that would take me to Mumbo's Mountain. Instead I want the Rusty Bucket Bay demo. So what I'm going to do is, if you wait for this cutscene, while it's fading out for whatever reason, you can press start a bunch of times and it'll make you change what demo it's doing. So I'm going to hold a direction on the joystick. And this is why it works on Xbox, because they changed the camera. It flicks the camera around, Banjo dies in the demo. So you hold the joystick, you press start 6 times during the fade out, and now you start the run in Rusty Bucket Bay. So this is the thing that saves a whole bunch of time, because it saves going from Spiral Mountain up the Lair, we can go back through the Lair. Now we don't have to worry about getting the pumpkin to raise the water, for example. Anyway, so a bit about this run. To beat this game, you need 810 notes. There's no skip for that 810 note door. That's the last compulsory note door. You also need to open Door of Grunty, and that costs 25 jiggies. Now about Door of Grunty, you can skip that on N64, but on Xbox, nobody's ever done it before, and based on my understanding of the physics, I have doubts about whether it is possible. I tried for like 3 days straight to get Door of Grunty skip on Xbox, and I couldn't do it. And based on my understanding, I think that it may not be possible. Anyway, so if we could get Door of Grunty skip, it would save about 5 minutes, but we can't. Some other differences, Xbox lags a lot less, although that doesn't really matter. This game compensates for lag pretty well. And the loading zones are faster on Xbox, but you can't skip text with L, R, and B on Xbox, because L is mapped to R. So you're going to be seeing a lot of text in this run, and that makes Xbox pretty slow. There's some other glitches that don't work, which I'll get into, but basically Xbox is a bit slower than N64, apart from this one glitch, DDA, which lets us start in Rusty Bucket Bay, and ends up saving a lot of time. If you could do DDA on N64, this run could probably come down to something in the mid or low 50s, I would say. Anyway, so we're going through, and there's 9 levels with 100 notes in each level. As I said, we need 810 notes to beat the game. So basically, we're going to have to go into every level. We're doing 5 of these levels as Banjo. Then we're going to click Clockwood, getting the B. We're going to take the B out of the intended area and use the B to get into other levels and get a whole bunch of notes. That's basically what this run is going to look like. The reason this saves so much time over in 64 is because we start up in Rusty Bucket Bay, and we can get the B quite a bit earlier. Anyway, so about this run in particular, this was the first ever sub-hour run of Banjo-Kazooie without cheats. So about a year ago, there's a category called Sandcastle %, which uses the Sandcastle codes. On Xbox, you would use it to open Click Clockwood. And I got a 59.59 in that category about a year ago. That was the first ever sub-hour run of Banjo altogether. However, a lot of people don't like the use of cheats, so this is the first sub-hour, any %, like no cheats time that's ever been done. And as of now, when I'm recording this on the 15th of July 2019, it's the world record. And what you saw right there was probably about the biggest mistake in the run, one of me missing that jump up there. This Rusty Bucket Bay was pretty below average, and by below average I mean a higher time than average. It wasn't that great, but it was passable to get to the rest of the run. So yeah, there's a lot of focus on N64 100%. There's a little bit less, but still a bit of focus on N64 any %. But in terms of Xbox any percent, there's not a whole lot of competition. However, I'm fairly confident that this run is quite well optimized because I can compete in the other categories where there is a lot of competition. So yeah, fairly rusty Bucket Bay, but it's okay. Like there are a few things like falling there. I should have used an egg to open this window in this room. But these are just minor things, and as you can see, I've only lost 11 seconds to my summer best. And that's another thing that I found very useful with this category, is I'm using the auto splitter made by Trove. And what I've set up is that it splits on every single loading zone. So these splits are very frequent, and it gives me a really good idea of where I'm saving and losing time. Helps me optimize my movement a lot. So that's been really handy, and I've been using that a lot for Banjo-Kazooie in all categories. But anyway, timing starts on this run as soon as the demo starts to get into Rusty Bucket Bay. The reason for that is that's when the actual game time on this file starts, and to be consistent with other categories, we normally start when the game time would start. So if you're familiar with N64, you don't include FFM in the timing because that's on a different file. You only start the timing when you press A to start the new game. Similar to that, the timer is ticking up during the demo. And you've got a bit of influence over where to flick the camera in the demo, so you could do it either optimally or suboptimally, so it should be included in the timing. So finishing up Rusty Bucket Bay here, a little thing about DDA is it gives us all the moves, and it gives us 100 eggs and 50 red feathers and 10 gold feathers and 25 Mumbo tokens. So I've got lots of resources to spare and all the moves, so I don't have to go around talking to bottles, which would take really long on Xbox as well. But there is no progress through the lair, and you have no notes and no jiggies. So basically you're starting from scratch, except in Rusty Bucket Bay, except you have all these consumables and your moves. So that's what saves you a lot of time as well. We're only transforming into the bee, no other transformations, so 25 Mumbo tokens is all we need for that. Now here's a little trick with the water switch. I'm going to Talon Trot off the edge there. There's sort of three things that can happen with that Talon Trot. You can fall down like I did there, that's optimal. You can Talon Trot but not fall off the edge, that's sort of in the middle. That's good but not great. Or you could miss the Talon Trot and go up with the water, and that's really slow. As you can see, I'll gold this split here because I had really good movement with the swim as well there. So that was a highlight of the run, getting that. Although it's fairly common to get the Talon Trot, especially on Xbox, because Talon Trotting is actually a little bit easier on Xbox because it's not tied to a camera button. It's tied to a nice trigger that you can just slam down. Now this is 640 skip that I'm about to do, so we're going to build up downward speed on this ledge and clip through into the water here. And into the corner. So the reason I'm coming in here now is that I need to spawn the Jiggy Podium that can open Click Clockwood. So basically I'm at the end of the lair now. I'm going to spawn this, and then I'm going to work my way back down to the start of the lair, then come back up here to Click Clockwood, then sort of go around again with the bees. There's lots of back and forth in the lair. Now you might be thinking like, well, why don't I just use the red cauldron instead of going back and forth? And it turns out that this red cauldron that's under me about right now, I can't actually activate yet because I need it for a glitch called Reverse Bee Adventure later, which we'll see. But anyway, so we're just going to make our way down the lair. Basically, right now, I'm just trying to gather enough jiggies to open Click Clockwood and do a few levels as Banjo that are quicker than doing as the bee. So I'm going to do Mumbo's Mountain, Treasure Trove Cove, and Freezeezy Peak before I go to Click Clockwood. Mumbo's Mountain and Treasure Trove Cove, they're very easy to open. They're 1 and 2 jiggies each, and they're also very slow to do as the bee, which is why I do them now. Also, you need to get back up through the lair, and that involves getting through some note doors, like the 260 door. So that's why I want to do those levels as well, so I can actually get back up through the lair. Otherwise, I'd have to activate various cauldrons, and it would get really messy.
Yeah, what's the job doing, Tracer?
Yeah, so I've activated that red cauldron now. That's for really a lot later in the run when I do the RBA glitch. And I'm coming back now to do Mumbo's Mountain. So I could open Treasure Trove Cove right now. I have enough jiggies to do so. But the issue with that is Grunty tries to like talk to you there, and she would interrupt Bottle's text. And that would take a lot of time because you can't skip text on Xbox. At least not most text. So you can't skip it with LR and B, and that causes a lot of issues with routing, especially in Sandcastle Percent, where, like, in Sandcastle Percent I purposely put some pieces in a puzzle that I don't need just to deal with text issues. It's ridiculous. But this is an example of really long text on Xbox. This text could be quicker in other languages. It's a tiny bit quicker in Japanese, but Japanese text has a really weird delay, so it's only like 0.3, 0.4 seconds quicker. And that's not worth it for potentially getting a lot of answers wrong in Furnace Fun later on. That's the quiz at the end of the game. German is probably quicker as well, and that's something that I could consider for future categories. But for now I'm just playing in English so that I definitely don't get questions wrong in Furnace Fun. So we're into Mumbo's Mountain now, just collecting a lot of notes and jiggies as per normal. Mumbo's has a lot of quick notes and jiggies, being the first level of course. Normally you would get a text on this jiggy saying, hey, it's your first jiggy, but because we're in the demo at the moment, the demo actually clears off all those text things, so DDA works out really well. You might also be wondering, well, why not use DDA for 100%? Wouldn't that be really fast? You wouldn't have to raise the water level as the pumpkin, and you would have like Talon Trot for Spiral Mountain and stuff. Now the issue with that is the DDA file is used for a few things. So it's the file that the demo uses, and it doesn't save it all. But a fancy thing about the file is that Wazza in Freezeezy Peak actually isn't there at all. So it turns out you can't get Wazza's jiggy. Now the reason for that is because the demo file is the same file that's used for the stop and swap pictures at the end of the game. And that, the stop and swap pictures there, they need to go into Wazza's cave uninterrupted. So the solution that Rare chose was, well, on that file, just make Wazza not there at all. Not even in the cave, even. And he doesn't really do anything in the cave. So yeah, you could get 99 Gs on the DDA file, and 900 notes. But you could not 100% this file, which is why we can't use it for 100%. If we could, then 100% would probably be faster on Xbox as well. But of course, they would still be separated. Another thing that's quite tight with this run is the extra lives. So you may have seen earlier that on the hut I grabbed an extra life. That's mainly because, well, we can't get game over because the game's not saving. So if I die with 0 lives, then it's run over. Or if like something goes horribly wrong, I can't just, you know, save and quit and restart. I would have to go from the very start of the run, very start of the file. So yeah, extra lives are important because we chew through a lot of them. The other difference that I didn't mention about Xbox is that your notes actually save. So I've got about 80 something notes right now. If I die, I'll still have those 88 notes that I have right now. And they won't respawn at all. And that's just something about Xbox that your notes save. And it leads to some interesting routing because we can die mid-level, respawn, and then we can collect the rest of the notes. Whereas on N64, you have to collect all the notes in one streak without dying. Another thing about Xbox is that termite skip doesn't work, so that's why I didn't get the 6 notes and 1 jiggy from Ticker's Tower there. So I ended up with 94 notes in Mumbo's Mountain and 8 jiggies. No, 7 jiggies, because I skipped Chimpy, Conga, and Tickers. Skipping Chimpy Jiggy is a fairly recent addition to the route. That jiggy's about 20 seconds. The next slowest jiggy is probably the 312111 jiggy in Rusty Bucket Bay. Anyway, now I'm going to go through and open Treasure Trove Cove. Luckily we don't have to talk to Brentildas anymore in Banjo-Kazooie, thanks to Ninpulk Skip, which I'll touch on a bit later. But basically, you would never want to talk to a Brentilda on Xbox anyway, because she just takes so long with her unskippable text. But the whole point of talking to Brentilda before was so that she would give you answers for Furnace Fun about Grunty. Now we basically skip almost all of Furnace Fun, so it's not worth it. Anyway, we're coming into TTC now, and I'm in a really good situation here because I have full health. Sometimes you can take a damage in Mumbo's Mountain. It's actually fairly common, and that actually messes up your route for Treasure Trove Cove. So it's very important that I'm on full health here, because first thing I'm going to do is go to this sandcastle, and then this shrapnel enemy is going to take 2 damage from me. So I have 3 left. I'll take 1 later from bonking off of a beak bomb, and then I'll take 1 in Nipper. And then I'll take the very last one, the 5th health, to die. So you might think, well, it's pretty scary doing this whole run on 5 health, because I don't need any extra honeycombs, so I'm not going to get them. It's any percent. That would be slow. But it's actually quite good having 5 health, because like, it takes a long time to lose health, and we often want to die just to get places quicker, like die and then go back to the start of the level. So yeah, it's quite good to only have 5 health for any percent, but it does make some parts very scary, like Treasure Trove Cove, for example. But yeah, these trees are always a pain to get notes on, but I got them quick-ish there. So the total number of jiggies we're getting in this run is 43 jiggies. So it's 1 to open Mumbos, 2 to open TTC, 15 to open Click Clock Wood, and 25 to open Door of Grunty. And then I'm basically just choosing the quickest 43 jiggies I can get. So as I said before, the slowest one that I'm getting probably is the 3-1-2-1-1-1 jiggy with the whistles. That's about 18 seconds. And then the quickest one that I'm not getting is Chimpy, which is about 20 seconds. So yeah, we're looking at about 18 seconds per jiggy. So if I could do Door of Grunty skip, then, you know, that would save something around 25 jiggies. So if you're thinking about, you know, 10 to 18 seconds per jiggy for each of those, that's a lot of time. And that's something that would be good if we found DDA on N64. Okay. This lockup jiggy is actually quite hard on Xbox. This jiggy is free on N64, but it's very precise to get that one on Xbox there. Now we're going to go through and get these 3 notes. So about TTC, there's a lot of flying, and we're trying to get as many jiggies as we can while flying. There are some slow ones that we're not getting, like the X's or the Sandcastle jiggy, but yeah. And another interesting thing about Xbox is objects draw from a lot further away, and there's a lot less lag. So this lockup here, very easy to get into this lockup on N64, but it's going to close right as I'm trying to jump into it there. And you can do camera trickery to get them on different cycles, but I was unlucky there and had to wait a bit for it. That lockup thing is also what makes that beak bombing and getting the lockup jiggy so hard there. But one benefit of Xbox is having a camera on a joystick rather than buttons, so I can get these stairs pretty good with careful camera movements. Of course I mess up the quick dive a little bit there, but that's fine. Yeah, and with quick dives there, it's if you're exiting Talon Trot going into the water, you'll sink really deep, which is what was supposed to happen there. And that crab as well can get you very easily on Xbox. It barely ever gets you on N64, but there you go. And yeah, so right now I have 2 health, and this is a little bit scary with Nipper. I had a run just a few runs before this one that did die to Nipper, but normally you're absolutely fine. You only take 1 damage on Nipper. Sometimes you even take 0, but it's fairly rare. Yep, so getting that jiggy and flying, and then we're going to get the witch switch. Now this witch switch jiggy is incredibly important to get. Sandcastle percent doesn't get this jiggy, and that actually causes a lot of issues. So I'll talk about it a bit on the way to FP, but for now we've got this jiggy here, which again is different on Xbox. We got to kind of go around and get it. N64 can just fly straight at it and pull back and get it, but there we go. We got Nipper Skip as well, so I'm going to try and take just 1 damage here, which isn't too bad at all. If you're familiar with any Banjo speedrun, pretty much, this is in it. Catch you later, Greaser. Some luck. And yeah, so basically I'm going to die, which is 2 things. It skips the Jiggy Jig, and it brings me back to the start of the level. The one note that I missed here was that one single note across from the lockup with the Jiggy. And yeah, so I'm getting the TTC Witch Switch Jiggy, and then I'm going to open Click Clock Wood. Now this Jiggy is very important, because when I died on that Nipper Jiggy, the Jiggy was still in Banjo's hand when I died. And what can happen with that is when Banjo finishes the dance, he's supposed to eat the Jiggy, and then the Jiggy disappears from the list of objects. But if you die and interrupt that, then the game holds on to this value associated with the Jiggy, and it gets ready to disappear this Jiggy from the list of objects. And then if you go to a different map and grab a different Jiggy, If you grab the Jiggy normally, it'll all be fine. But if you happen to skip the Jiggy dance by like being in transformation or being in flying or swimming or taking damage at the same time, then it'll try and get rid of an object, but the wrong object in most cases. Usually what happens most of the time there is the game will crash. And that's just basically because you're trying to get an object, delete an object that doesn't exist. So what can happen if you don't grab that TTC Witch Switch Jiggy that I just grabbed is the very next Jiggy we're grabbing is in Freezeezy Peak. And we're grabbing it while skipping the dance because we'll be in flying. And then most of the time we'll crash if we grab that Jiggy. Because it would be grab the Nipper Jiggy and die while grabbing it, then grab that one in FP. The reason the one in the TTC lobby is okay, the Witch Switch Jiggy, is because we're not skipping the dance. So yeah, it doesn't always crash. Sometimes that Jiggy in Freezeezy Peak just makes a Mumbo token disappear in the level, but most of the time it crashes. So the solution in that in Sandcastle % is to, there's a few solutions, but one of them is to mess around the order of the levels. But in any % we need that TTC Witch Switch Jiggy, so we just grab it. Now coming up is one of the harder tricks in the run. This is called Freezeezy Peak Early. Basically, we're going to do a Beak Bomb to clip out a bounce. Beak Bomb is the very fast nose point forward while flying. And we're going to clip out a bounce and use that to get into Freezeezy Peak. The interesting thing is you get this move from Freezeezy Peak. So the only reason we can use it to get in early is because we've got all the moves from DDA or on N64 from FFM. So this is always a really tense part of the run, getting this clip, because it's not easy at all. If I fail it, I lose like 45 seconds. As you can tell, I don't have 45 seconds to spare to get this sub-hour time. And I Beak Bomb into the loading zone there, which is quite risky, but
Sick.
I figured I should go for it. Just to really squeeze out those extra seconds. Now this text is quite slow, but you can't grab that note that I just grabbed without triggering that text, so it's pretty important. It feels slow, but it's not really that slow, because there's 2 notes that you can't get without getting the text. And in FP we're actually going to get all 100 notes, and that's actually kind of important because we'll get an extra life from that. And the way that the life routing works out in this, we need everyone we can get, and we're going to end up on 0 lives by the end of the run. So I'm just going through and grabbing a lot of notes. This next part is something that I was probably more disappointed about in this run. Basically I'm going to fly up and Beak Bomb at the pipe. Usually you can grab the Jiggy with the end of the Beak Bomb and not take any damage, but I miss it here unfortunately. But you can see the idea. You would grab the Jiggy there, and then you would fly straight up, but I have to kind of take a bit of extra time to fly in and physically touch the Jiggy there. That's a trick that I had unfortunately been missing a lot leading up to this run, but I used to be more consistent at it, so that's something I'll have to practice. But yeah, that's like my favorite part of any % is grabbing that Jiggy, so it's a bit of a shame that it wasn't in this run, but it doesn't really save much time, so it's not that big of a deal. Anyway, just doing some movement down this scarf now, trying to optimize jumping on slopes and everything. If you've seen my any % tutorial for N64, you'll know all about slopes and speeds and movements. Run down slopes, jump up slopes. That's the other thing, the optimal movement in this game is Talon Trot, and it's jumping in Talon Trot usually. So, yeah, lots of jumping around in Talon Trot here. But the B has a whole other optimization stuff. And that's what I like about this category too, is the B movement. Lots going on there, lots to optimize, and I think that's also what scares a lot of people off this category. But any % on Xbox is really fun to run. It's not as hard as any % on N64, so if someone's looking for a category to start with in Banjo-Kazooie, I'd pick this one. And I'll get to it a bit later, but you don't have to do something called 450 skip, which I'll show you later as well. But it's very important that I have 5 health here now, because I'm going to do this swim in the icy water here. And something very bad happens at the end of it. Probably the worst bit of the run actually happens at the end of this swim. Basically, I can take either 3 or 4 damage in this water, and I end up taking 3, which is what I want. Because you need 2 health to get across to Mumbo. So this is really good. I've only taken 3 and I'm out of the water. But then this snowman decides to hit me with that snowball.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
So I have to actually... Not many people know this, but you can use those snowballs to get health as well, if you break them. So that cost me a lot of time. But you need that health to get across this lake. And I should have pecked into the water there, but I was a little bit late. Now here's a really important glitch in Mumbo. You can actually trigger his text as you're dying. This is important on N64, but it's even more so on Xbox. Shoutouts to Mittens for this setup. It's amazing. But yeah, so we got that text cleared without even having to read it, and that saves so much time. It's really good. And before Mittens' setup, it was really difficult, but now we get it like every time. It's a simple beak barge, just tap B off the edge and you get it every time. Now this is 450 skip, it's basically the same as FPL, you just go a different direction after the clip. Now, if you're looking at running any percent, you don't actually have to do this trick, it only saves like 10 or 12 seconds. If you don't do this, you would get the blue cauldron near the start of the run and use it now to get back up near RBB. But that's 450 skip anyway. And we got another 640 skip coming up anyway. So yeah, if you don't want to do 450 skip, what you need to do is hit the blue cauldron right after you finish Rusty Bucket Bay. And then instead of going Mumbo's, Treasure Trove Cove, Freezeezy Peak, you would go Freezeezy Peak and do FBLE. Then Mumbo's, then Treasure Trove Cove. And then you would go back to Click Clock Wood using the blue cauldron instead of 450 skip. So yeah. And that whole route that I just described with the blue cauldron only loses like 12 seconds. And remember, every time you miss 450 skip, it's 45 seconds that you lose. So it's only like if you're going for really, really optimal times that you want to do 450 skip. Anyway, we're in Click Clock Wood now, and yeah, we're going to get started. So this level's broken up into 4 seasons, and I'm not going into winter. But I will be getting a lot of notes all through these, and then taking a trip back into spring right at the end to get the bee transformation. And using the bee cuts off a lot of time in this run through a glitch called RBA, which we'll see. We're basically going to get, like, you know, 300 notes in the game as the bee out of the 810 that we need. It's very big. And we're going to use the bee to actually get into 4 levels without opening them. So, yeah, the bee saves a lot of jiggies, and, like, getting those notes is faster as the bee as well in most cases. So he's climbing the tree, and this can look a little bit scary, but once you've, like, done it enough times, it's not really that bad. The birds get bigger each season, so you have to be careful jumping around them. But yeah, Click Clock Wood is Click Clock Wood and Rusty Bucket Bay are the levels that I'm proud of with my movement. Like, I put a lot of time into these levels. Since they're, like, quite early in any percent and quite late in 100%, like, these are the levels that I tend to do better at, like, in comparison to other runners, but I'm not so good at the earlier ones. Now, that guy was right in my way when I fell, so I had to actually flutter off. Normally, you ground pound down, ground pound recoil down, and you don't take damage, but if you hit that guy, then you would take all that fall damage and basically die, unless you flutter after you hit him, so mash A basically. So yeah, that was really interesting to see, and if you don't know that, that can definitely kill a run, and it's killed a run of mine before as well. But basically, yeah, so that guy took 2 damage from me. Normally I would have full health here, but I need to die at the end of this season anyway. So it's not that bad that I took that damage. In fact, it actually will save a little bit of time in this season here. So coming up is the summer house, and this jig is quite scary, but if you kind of count the kazooie noises of your walk, then it's really consistent. So I go like 3 or 4 depending on where I land. So that was 4 because I landed a little bit further away from the door than usual. And then yeah, you can jump in really easily. You can get that jiggy from the back of the house using an egg shot through the wall, but you want the extra life as well, because they're so scarce in this route. So you really do need to jump in the house. No baby strats for this jiggy. And we're jumping down to get another one. So yeah. This Jiggy goes straight past in autumn, but
Alright, so
I just grab it now because it's actually about as fast. Normally I would take the full damage there and then flutter back onto the ledge really quickly, but I didn't need to because I had that extra health loss from spring. So now we're just going to open autumn and then immediately die after the cutscene.
Yeah, okay. Probably save a little bit of time due to that, but
And yeah.
the rest of the summer wasn't great, so.
And now we're going to autumn, which actually has the most notes, and that's why we need to get to autumn. Winter has, I think it's 12 or 16 notes, and it's really not worth it. But autumn has so many. They're all around the tree. And this area is usually really laggy on N64, but it doesn't matter so much on Xbox, because Xbox doesn't really lag. But lag in this game, Banjo moves faster if the game lags to compensate, so you don't really lose time from lag. Unless it drops, so N64 usually runs at 30 frames a second. If it drops below 20 frames a second, you do start losing time. So it'll only speed Banjo up 1.5 times as fast. Not 2 times as fast. Well, not like more than that. Not more than 1.5. So, yeah, that's why if you drop below 20 frames a second, you do start losing time. But that's fine anyway. I use this slope to get a bit of speed and then just get to this snare bear. There's a little bit of a weird damage route. I could take damage on this snare bear here, but I'm not going to. So I have 5 health now. I want ideally 4 health when I get to the top of the tree. So what I could do is take 2 damage from that snare bear, and then from this bird here get a health to get myself back to 4. But I just have on 5 health for safety, really. But yeah, so that's a little thing that could change, but it's not really that big, not really that important. Jumping around that guy, nuts text trigger there as well, it's quite precise if you want to get a very tight line to the window. The reason we go through the window is because if Banjo goes through the door, he has a little walking animation coming out of the door. The window is just instant movement. So now I'm going to jump down to Mumbo's skull because that has some notes in it. And I'm going to take a lot of full damage. So you will see why I said I wanted 4 health. I've got 5 now. And then when I do this, I'll have 2 left. I want 1 left here ideally. But it's no big deal. I just take 2 damage in here instead. And I could get a talent shot into Mumbo's loading zone, but I wasn't lucky enough to have that this time. So as you can see, we're dying so often in this run, and it's just quicker to die than to walk back to spring all the way there. But yeah, and we're going to even die at the end of spring, so Click Clockwood takes a lot of deaths. And if I were doing this on N64...
Take damage, Banjo. Take damage.
If I were doing this on N64, then I wouldn't be able to do this route, because as soon as I died in Click Clockwood, I would have to get all the notes again, which wouldn't be good. Something that happened at the start of this season is I tried to take damage on that snare bear there, and it didn't work. I really wanted to take 2 damage here on the snare bear, and then I would take 1 damage falling down here. And then I would take 1 damage in the bramble going across to Mumbo's, which would put me on 1 health, which is perfect for the death walk coming up. So instead what I'm going to do is I have 4 health, so I'm going to take 2 damage getting across this bramble, and then I'll have 2 health for the death walk, which is a little bit slower. But what could I do? I didn't have the damage from the snare bear. I really wanted to take damage from it as well. But that's fine. Getting onto this pad's a little bit awkward. I didn't get onto it there because Mumbo sort of took my control away from me as I was jumping onto it, but that's fine. So, the bee. Have a look at the way I hold the controller. It's quite wacky. You can sort of see it in the controller cam there, but yeah. Bee movement is very complicated, and I've put like probably the most time into it out of all the runners because I've taken 80% the most seriously. In 100%, the bee is just a brief cameo. But we got this trick coming up called RBA. Now, if you've seen RBA on N64, you just clip out of bounds on a note door or in a corner of the room. Xbox, those clips don't work, so we have to use this other method of RBA. There's actually 3 methods. This one is really hard on N64 and is only realistic on Xbox. And there's one that's PAL only on N64 and one that's NTSC only. So I'm going to jump up onto this roof, and I'm trying to trigger the cauldron as I detransform. There we are.
Dead.
So what that does is it interrupts you detransforming, and then it, yeah, you've got RBA, basically. So the bee is not supposed to be here. Now we can take it all through the lair. That cauldron method of RBA is really hard on N64. It's still hard on Xbox, but it's not as bad as N64. But N64 RBA is easier because you can just clip out of bounds rather than relying on that cauldron. And that would be another thing that would make this route faster on N64, because you wouldn't, like, you could use the red cauldrons earlier on in the run. So instead of going up from TTC, walking up through the lair to click Lockwood, we could go take the red cauldron. So that would be faster. Anyway, here's Clanker's, the first B level, and I really love the B movement. These notes I was really happy with there. My PB did not have very good one of those notes. But yeah, quite complex stuff. Holding R and B most of the time, as you can see with my two other fingers, and then I'm thumbing A a lot of the time. But yeah, so we're getting all 100 notes in Clanker's actually. And yeah, so basically you can see my PB is a 350 and my best is a 340 there. That's because of Clanker's bolt. So Clanker is on a cycle where his bolt will go in and out. He also bobs up and down from the water if you wanted to like shoot his tooth with Banjo or something. But basically his bolt will pop out every 10 seconds and then come back in pretty quickly after, like 1 or 2 seconds after. So basically if you're saving or losing time in this level, you're doing it in multiples of 10 seconds. So what happened in my PB was I messed up enough that I'd actually lost enough time that I missed a bolt cycle. Now my gold says 340, but I reckon I could get a 330 with really good movement. And this run gets a 340 as well. But yeah, I reckon I could make one more cycle because I had a run before this that was really close. And I thought about cutting out 1 or 2 notes to make that cycle as well. But the next fastest 2 notes are Naughty's notes in summer, which take 11 seconds, which is more than a cycle. Now I'm doing this tunnel now, and there's a reason I haven't done this tunnel yet. That's because if you do this before you raise Clanker, he'll give you this really long text box in this tunnel. So the routing is really important to do this tunnel after you raise Clanker. And we're just flying through and getting more notes. So, little mistake there, but I've got time to spare with this bolt cycle. I'm not going to make a 330, so, but I can make like a 332, which will end up being a 340. Snippets here, when the bee touches water, it flies out, so I'm trying to carefully manage it so that it gains as little height as possible, just to get to that note quicker. And that was really smooth in entering this room. But yeah, bee is very slow on the ground, so you want to grab as many notes as you can in flying. That snippet there, I wasn't supposed to take damage from either. So right now, I've got 4 health, and I really want 5, because I want to take... I'll show you this strat anyway. 5 notes here, all in flying, and then you grab the Jiggy. I really like that part of the run. But yeah, that chomper there gives you 2 damage, and I want to take damage there and get down to 3. 3 is ideal for when you enter the bolt.
So I normally take a damage on
well, really, 2 is ideal, but 2 is really scary. So I'd normally take a damage off of that guy and get onto 3 health, but now I'm going to be on 4 health just to be safe. Because it's either 4 health or 2 health, and 2 health is way too risky on this run. So, just cleaning up the notes here, and I'm going to get these 2 notes. So these 2 notes I reckon cost about a cycle, and the next slowest 2 notes are 11 seconds, so these are worth it. But anyway, so you can see that was the 330 bolt that just went up there, and it's come back down. So I could make that 330, I think it would be really difficult and it wouldn't happen very often. I'm going to take 1 damage on purpose in here. So that'll be on this next blades. And then I'm just going to like chill out a bit on these blades. Oh, I did take a damage. I took 2, yeah. So normally I would only take 1 damage in that room, but since I had 4, I took 3. So getting into that tunnel is very hard, but if you do a full jump and push into the tunnel, it usually works. Like just hold A, that usually works. And this is like going to be one of the only clips you see as the bee. To clip out, and this clip that I'm about to do is very important. It's also very easy. We're clipping out here. So The bee can't go underwater, but it can go around water out of bounds and get to these notes here. So without that, we would have a lot of trouble getting notes as the bee. Anyway, we're just cleaning out the last few, and I've got 1 health, so I have to be a little bit careful, but it's really not that bad. Luckily in this room with the fast fan blades, the bee is actually too short to get hit by them, so as long as I don't jump, I have no issues, because I can just walk through and not worry at all. But I do want to grab this Jiggy before I die. And 100 notes there is really important because it gives you an extra life, and that's why getting those 2 notes is so good in Clankers as well. We're done with Clankers and we're on to Bubblegloop Swamp next. But I'm still going to be cleaning up a bunch of Jiggies as the bee, because we still need Jiggies for Door of Grunty, and bee Jiggies are actually quite fast. So I'm going to be getting a lot of them.
Are 11 seconds.
So you're supposed to open this, but the bee can actually squeeze through the bars there.
The next 2 slowest notes are in Naughties in summer.
Yeah. I was quite nervous at this point here because I messed this up before. Getting into Bubblegloop is quite difficult, but luckily I got in okay here. That was fairly fast. On N64 you can just clip the door, but that doesn't work on Xbox. Well, it does work, but you have to go so fast that you come out the back of the level, which is not what you want. Anyway, Bubblegloop is probably one of my favorite levels to do in this run because I've spent so much time getting down this time. This level has a lot of history. Like, I remember when I was doing Bubblegloop first, I was really excited to get sub 3 game time. I thought, 3 minutes, that's my goal. I'm going to get better than 3 minutes in game time. But then, so game time is usually lower than real time, so that's probably like a 302, 303 in real time for this split. As you can see now, my goal is a 251, and that could still improve. I think I could get sub 250 if I really tried on Xbox. The bee is weird on Xbox. I feel like it moves a little bit faster, so it's a little bit faster than N64, but I could probably get a 252 or 3 on N64 now. And that's thanks to a new route by Hyper Resonance, which is what I'm doing now. As well as just getting better at the game. But here I have to grab an extra life, so if I didn't get this extra life, I really could get sub 250, which would be very exciting. But yeah, I love Bubblegloop because it has lots of little time saves, and it's really just solid 3 minutes of bee movement. No slow loading zones, no nothing, just solid bee movement. It's really good fun. But yeah, it's like even just this one level where you're just collecting 83 notes out in the open. It's crazy to see how far it's come over the years. When I started running this category, the time was like a 1:19:52 for the whole game on N64. But like, and there people were getting like Bubblegloop Swamps that were worse than 3 minutes, and even without any new glitches or anything, just we've gotten so much better that you can get a 251 now, which is crazy to think. Which would definitely be a sub 250 in game time. Yeah, so this maze is a little weird. You gotta try and land on the top and fall down. So flying downwards as the bee is really slow, obviously, but you can usually land on the walls and stuff. But there's some really delicate movement with like not holding B and stuff. Whenever I say holding B as well, I mean X on Xbox. It would be B on N64. But yeah, so this Bubblegloop was fairly clean. It wasn't too bad at all. Like 1 or 2 little mistakes, but I was pretty happy with this run.
But the loading zone doesn't work
so now, like, the hard part about this is grabbing these 2 notes in flying. But there you go. So grabbing stuff in flying with the B is really what gets the really good top players optimized with it. Escaping this lobby used to be really hard because you can hit the D transformation. So it de-transforms you if you're the croc, but it doesn't matter if you're the croc. If you're the bee, it'll de-transform you as well. So escaping the Bubblegloop lobby used to kill so many runs. It was ridiculous. But since then, oh man, I think it was Oxylan found that setup that I used to escape Bubblegloop, and it's super consistent and fast. It's just amazing. So that's not even an issue anymore. Now, clipping into Gobies is like that little gap you can clip into. That was kind of slow, but yeah. On N64, we would trigger Trunker's text to get out of flying, but on Xbox, we just got to fly over Trunker and not get the text, because the text is really slow, because you can't skip it.
Oh, I almost missed that.
Getting notes in the sand now, and we're going to do Gobi clip, so, or Jinxy clip or whatever. So this trick is quite difficult with Banjo, but with the B, we can literally walk through the bottom of Jinxy. It's really good. So not very difficult at all. Although whenever I'm doing runs, I like to make out that it was some really difficult trick that I just did. Now, inside Jinxy is another very iconic room of any percent. So, all 3 notes on the carpet. Very, very satisfying to do, but also very difficult. And that little sequence of 3 notes in Jiggy is just, like, iconic any percent. It's really satisfying when you nail it. Yeah, so he's cleaning up the notes here. Ideally, I want to lose some health, so sometimes I take it on the hand in this room, but right then the hand went down pretty early, so I didn't bother. The other option is taking it off the Buzz Bomb in Bubblegloop Swamp, and that takes 2 damage, which is really good. But right now I have 5 health, which is going to be a bit slow for the end of Gobi's, but it won't be too bad. Anyway, we're getting these, and Gobi's is pretty hard, grabbing everything and flying, but you do get used to it after a little while. These notes here I always feel are pretty slow, but there's not really much you can do because 6 notes is a lot of notes, you can't really skip them. Yeah, and one other thing about Gobi's is, so there's the Witch Switch Jiggy in the sarcophagus. I grabbed that before Gobi's. In future runs, I would recommend people probably should grab it after Gobi's, but I decided that just before this run that I was going to do that, but I decided not to in this run just because I hadn't practiced that movement and I didn't want to mess it up. But it's just a little bit less travel if you grab it after Gobi's rather than before. I don't know if that'll work yet, if there's good movement to do it though, so I mean, of course, if you're running this, investigate that for yourself. But it would only be 1 or 2 seconds difference. Now, I land on this note coming up here. I was supposed to stay in flying, but you get that. Yeah. So as you can see, like, trying to stay in flying for a lot of notes is very important. These notes are really difficult on here. Very important that you stay in flying, because if you drop off, you might trigger the cutscene, which takes ages for the pyramid. And then this part is one of the most tense moments of the run, getting Grab-a-Jiggy. So you can see his Jiggy down there, and I've got to get it with the B. But you have to be moving at the Jiggy fast enough. Good. It's really weird. You have to be going down fast enough, and it's very difficult. But basically, you can grab that Grab-a-Jiggy. You're supposed to use running shoes as Banjo, but you can grab it with the B. And that kills a lot of runs. It takes a long time sometimes. And when you miss it, you have to fly back up and then come down again. Very, very frustrating. Well, I got it first try. So that was pretty much all I could ask for. Now, this clip I got a really good setup for, but I kind of messed it up in this run.
No, B, don't do this, don't do this.
And yeah, I wasn't very happy. So this, along with that snowball and FP, and some minor movement things, were the major mistakes of the run, really. But I get in here eventually, and go in. So we get 1 Jiggy and 8 notes from this room. So we used to not get this room, and we would get the 10 notes from the church, while we would skip the 2 notes somewhere else. Trying to think what we did. So we would get 10 notes. So now instead of those 10 notes, I'm getting the 8 notes in here plus the 2 notes in Clankers. And I'm death warping. So you can see why I wanted less health, because it took a really long time to lose all 5 there. But you can lose all 5 in
I would get
roughly what my gold is.
Now, but
so yeah, I would like to get the sarcophagus Jiggy right now in the future, but I decided not to in this run. Anyway, so at this point of the run, we've got Mad Monster Mansion left, and I am naturally very nervous at this point. Clearly on sub-hour pace, 59:21, best possible time. But it's really important that I don't mess anything up. So the scary parts of the run are mostly over. The really scary stuff like RBA and FPLE that can cost you heaps of time. But there's still little stupid things. So Mad Monster Mansion early I'm about to do. And that, that can really cost you a lot of time if you fail it. So you got to kind of jump into the roof of Mad Monster Mansion and pull back immediately, but it's a tiny gap you got to get through, and if you get it even a little bit wrong, then you don't get into MMM. It's a real pain. Anyway, we're getting a few notes with the B now. We're basically just going to like tidy up some and then turn back into Banjo. The B is really slow at getting all the notes in this level, so we're doing most of it with Banjo. And that ghost can be really rough. It can chase you very aggressively. Enemies just seem to be more aggressive on Xbox than N64 for whatever reason. But yeah, so it's nice that that ghost didn't bother me in the maze too much. Here I'm going to grab 2 notes and then a Jiggy. Ideally what I want to do with the Jiggy is land on the pole afterwards, but I completely messed it up here and didn't land on the pole. That's alright though, because I at least got the Jiggy still. And it was fairly quick to get back down from there. But yeah, this is a split that I could probably gold by a little bit still. Because I haven't really had that many runs up to Mad Monster Mansion. It says 177 attempts, but a lot of those attempts were from before I had the auto splitter, so yeah. Actually, as you can see, that was almost gold, and there were definitely mistakes like not landing on the pole after the Jiggy there, so yeah. One thing that can also happen in this run is turning into a washing machine, or Mumbo's trying to turn you into a T-Rex. Washing machine has like a 1 in 40 chance of happening, T-Rex is a 1 in 80 chance, but luckily there's only one time where that can happen in this run, and that's where you're turning into the bee. So yeah. And we're just going through and cleaning up some stuff, grabbing as many Jiggies and notes as I can in here. And once again, any Jiggy over 18 seconds I'm not going to be getting. But yeah, MMM I like to think I had fairly optimized, but since it's so late in the run now, I kind of slip up a bit on Xbox, and it's probably the weakest level of the run in terms of my golds. I think I played this one fairly well though. I probably could take damage off of like a Chomper in the notes room, but yeah. This bat here as well is way more aggressive on Xbox, so I had to go really far around it to get to the fly pad. That's totally intentional. Like, if you just go straight to the shock spring pad, that bat will get you like every time. So yeah, N64 strats do not work there. It's very brutal. But yeah, this room I could probably take a damage, or 2 damage it would be, off of one of these. So 1 hit, 2 damage. And that would make the death warp a bit faster, but I'm not risking that at this point in the run. And here's Napper. Napper is interesting on Xbox. If you're familiar with object teleport, if you like poop eggs before grabbing the Jiggy, you can teleport objects from the room to where you are. Like the door or the Mumbo token or the life. And also if you do Napper skip, which is getting into flying as you're grabbing the Jiggy, that skips the Jiggy dance. That'll also teleport something. I don't know about Napper skip on Xbox, but definitely teleporting something with eggs will crash the Xbox. So, yeah, I do not go for Napper skip because I'm pretty sure it crashes on Xbox if you get it. So yeah, that's another nice thing about Xbox, and this category is just really great. Lots of little good things. Basically, you can't go for Napper. You can't go for that stupid hard trick Napper skip because it probably would crash, which is nice because I don't like going for that trick. Anyway, I'm going around the well now and sort of just tidying it up whilst taking a lot of damage. I had 1 damage from the thorns before after Mumbo's skull, 1 damage from the thorns coming here, and 1 damage here. So I'm left with 2. That's 1 safety health and 1 to death warp. Generally though, even if you have 2 health, you're not really safe in this well, because if you get hit by one of those whip cracks, they can push you into another run right away and you can't get out. So yeah. Doing this well on 2 health right at the end of the run is very, very, very scary. But doable. Doable for sub 1. There we go. And as you can see, it puts me right into that whip crack there.
Stuff. Don't forget the notes though.
And I have to get these 4 notes here, and I've had many runs where I've forgotten them. And if you forget them, then if you see right there, the door is closed. So yeah, if you forget them, you're basically screwed. What you would have to do is go into Click Clock Wood, go to Autumn, and get the 4 notes in the beehive instead. And that would take way too long. So yeah. Right now, I'm naturally very nervous 59:30 is my best possible time. Coming up is Furnace Fun with Nimpox, Skip, and the Grunty fight, both of which are quite inconsistent and can lose you a lot of time. The Grunty fight especially is hard on Xbox because when the flypad spawns is kind of inconsistent. It can be slow or fast, kind of like, I want to say kind of like the birds in Click Clockwood. But anyway, we don't have to do a third 640 skip because we actually have 640 notes now, so we can just go straight through it, which is very nice. And yeah, so 810 notes, and I'll have 25 Gs on me as well, which is just what I need to beat the game. Luckily, I have enough eggs and feathers and stuff to beat Grunty. If I didn't, I would have to get the refills from the note doors in there, but you can get those refills without opening the doors just by kind of pecking at the bottom of the door, like very low.
I've just got it splitting on every black screen, which is every loading zone.
Yeah, there's a little optimizations everywhere in this game, like talent trotting into that loading zone.
Nice. I got
Very,
seconds to waste on this.
Yeah, lots of tiny little time saves. Now, Furnace Fun, we get this nice long cutscene because you can't skip text on Xbox, so I have to watch this whole thing. And Furnace Fun is really fast on Xbox because just questions go really fast because there's less lag, less loading times for picture questions and so on. So Nimpox skip usually saves 1 minute 40 to 2 minutes on N64. Doesn't save that much on Xbox because the questions you're skipping would have been really fast. So Furnace Fun's actually longer on Xbox now than N64. Whereas usually the fast questions used to make up for this cutscene, and they would be about the same. But anyway, so this is the quiz, and this is why I wouldn't play in possibly German or Japanese, even if they were faster, because I would get questions wrong here. But I would like to go to German one day, because I think that would be significantly faster. And German is also faster for Furnace Fun as well. But I would have to time everything, which I haven't done. And it's not worth the risk of getting these questions wrong here. For now. But coming up is an Nimpox skip, so we're going to get a question wrong on a death square, which would usually fling you into the lava. But we're going to make it so that we answer the question in Talon Trot, and then the game doesn't know what to do, so it just bounces you on the spot. There's this one tiny little unit-wide gap where you can get into Talon Trot here, and then we answer the death question. We get it wrong, so it tries to flick us off the board.
This is it.
And then when it flicks us off, it takes down the invisible walls, so we can just jump across the board to the end of Furnace Fun. Shoutouts to Nimpog for finding that. Before we had a similar skip using a death square, but it didn't use Talon Trot, it used positioning on the death square. So yeah. Now Door of Grunty skip, if you're familiar with it, works on N64, but on Xbox, you can clip out, you can get a jump out of the clip, but the jump always makes you go in bounds, at least from what I've seen. So I'm pretty sure
just in case
Door of Grunty wouldn't work on Xbox.
I feel like
at least if it did, it would be insanely difficult. And as I said, I spent 3 or 4 days doing it. Getting the dingpot text skip there is very important as well on Xbox because you can't skip text. But because Grunty's talking there, even if you land in the text trigger for dingpot, it usually won't speak to you. Now, I had a 254 Grunty fight in practice, so that gold could come down there. But this is very tense. Right now, I basically know I've got sub-hour, because I'm not going to lose 25 seconds to a Grunty fight. That's very rare for that to happen. But yeah. So just pooping eggs to get all 4 hits in on Grunty there, and then we're going through. So health is a little bit scary, and I got 0 lives, but it's usually okay, because runners are very consistent at the Grunty fight. You have to wait for a text a lot on Xbox, but having less lag kind of makes up for it in the Grunty fight to make Xbox almost as fast as N64. N64 can get about a mid 240. This is getting about a mid 250, and I could probably push it to a low 250 on Xbox. But yeah, and I've got enough eggs and feathers really. So right now, the flypad could spawn fast or slow. Right now, you'll see it's going to spawn fast. So now, sometimes it waits a lot. But this beak bomb is really hard if it spawns fast, and I got it there. So that was good.
No!
But yeah, I miss a beak bomb there, and that's probably another one of the bigger mistakes in the run, but I recover it really quickly. So that's fine. And I know I have 25 seconds to spare here, so it's not a big deal at all. Coming up is the cutscene skip with the Jinjo statue. So basically I'm going to be pooping eggs into the Jinjo statue as the cutscene goes on. Now if you do this wrong, and I think it's if you activate it too late, you can actually cause the game to softlock. So the other statues won't work, basically. And because I have 0 lives, that would be run over. So I was very tempted not to go for this cutscene skip because I knew that I could get sub hour without it, but I still went for it because I thought, you know, I want to optimize it. I don't want to just hit that hour barrier, I want it to be a good run as well. So I was very happy when that didn't softlock there, because usually you would know by that second statue. And the eggs on these were very clean as well, which was nice to see. But yeah. And health looks scary and grunty with 5 health, but as you can see, I'm back on 5 now and absolutely fine. So now all we've got is Ginginator. I don't do this super well, but I do it pretty good. And yeah, by now I definitely know I've got sub hour, because it's very hard to mess the Ginginator up. And I've still got like 15 or 20 seconds to play with here. So we do 3, 2, 2, 3. Actually, it was a pretty good Ginginator. But as you can see, it's a 302 Grunty.
Sub-hour BK, first one ever.
So, yeah.
Yes.
Basically, that...
Finally.
Not a great Grunty, but it got me the sub hour, so I'm fine. And with the amount of nerves that I had at that point, I'm pretty happy with the 302 Grunty, to be honest. This run is going to be hard to beat. I'm not going to attempt to beat it for a really long time, and probably not unless something new is found. The funny thing that I'm mentioning there in the video is that it's actually faster than my sandcastle percent time now, which is a 59.59.
I never would have thought, like, 3 years ago when the only percent time was a 119.52, and I came to this category that it could get sub hour. It is insane.
Yeah, as I mentioned there as well, 119.52 when I came to this category near the start of 2016. So it's come a really long way since then. It's gone from N64 to Xbox. We found so many things like Nimpox skip, TTC early, other stuff, I'm sure. Rerouting, all the B stuff. It's gone from PAL to NTSC as well. Clips in Gobi's Valley, various B clips.
Pumped.
Now that I'm thinking about it,
That's so good.
we probably only had, like, on N64, 6 or 7 minutes of time save since the 119, but it's down to a 107 or a 106 now, just because people are getting better and the routes are getting better. But yeah, without, like, heaps happening, it's come down a lot, which is really crazy to think about. And yeah, I'm really happy to have contributed a lot to the category over the years as well, since I started running this around the start of 2016. And yeah,
The only thing that
I'm really happy
went
to
wrong in this
be
run
like the first person to get sub hour any percent, and sandcastle percent as well.
me
So
getting hit by that snowball.
I mean, yeah, this category
costing
means
a lot.
quite a lot to me. So it's really nice to have this run to tie it all in a nice little knot. And I'll still do other stuff like N64 categories and other Xbox categories, but I think for any percent now, I'm just very happy with this run. Watching it back now, there are a few mistakes. I could probably beat it if I really had to, but like, no, I'm happy. It's good. So yeah, shout outs to everyone. You know, Jack for being the first. You know, he had the record when I started any percent, and me, him, and Stiv sort of traded it back and forth over the years. Stiv has it now on N64, but I'm not that far off, so I may come back to that and try and bop him. And like, he could get a time that's like 1 minute better than what he's got now, though. And I probably couldn't bop that, but yeah. Shout outs to like everyone. You all know who you are. You know, Hyper and Cole for routing, Mittens for the setups. You know, Isotage for getting me into Sandcastle percent. You know, basically everyone in my chat for like keeping me company while I did this horrible grind. But I say horrible, but I have fun doing it. I mean, resetting on this is better than resetting on FFM setup, that's for sure. So yeah, I guess, yeah, so thanks everyone. It's really great to have this run, and I'm really happy to be able to show it off in a commentated video. And I'll leave you with the credits. As I'm saying now, which I've muted, I would change it so that Jiggy is after Gobi's instead of before Gobi's. But apart from that, yeah, this is Banjo Any Percent. And if you're looking to learn this category as well, speedrun.com has a lot of resources, as well as the Banjo Discord. Just go in there and ask. Or this will be on YouTube. Comment on this video and ask me questions. I'm always happy to answer. I would really recommend Xbox Any Percent. It's not super difficult. Like that, there are a lot of things that you can do to make it easier. And Sandcastle Percent you can make super easy by using the code to open FP, for example. I think that code is like, now you can go and trudge in the snow in the sandcastle with cheat before it. So yeah, Banjo Any Percent needs more attention. I'd love to see more runners, and like, who knows how low we could push it in the future. I'm sure this is just the beginning of what we could have with this run. So yeah, I'll unmute myself on this, let the rest of the credits play out, and I think that'll be my commentary. So thanks everyone for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to check out more of this category in the future, and I hope to see more times on the leaderboards.
I might be able to do some Sandcastle Percent. Yeah, Mad Toss. Nice, dude. Thank you. That's what my sums look like. I guess that's what my averages look like. Wow. Nice. Yeah, we actually got more than 0. We got like, I think like 43. Yeah, 43 Gs. But yeah, because it's not saving to a file. Like as soon as it goes to a credits, it's like, oops, don't know what save file we're on. So yeah, like right now the file is, I guess, deleted. Alright.